There are some plugins that are quite a challenge and they make me so happy. Today, I built this. Funny thing is that my main sound is only this. But since Eventide is the brand that you have to go to learn how to do effects, it's mind blowing how much you can do just with one single plugin, proper routing, and some audio engineering skills. So today we will take a really deep dive, go grab something to drink, and I'll show you how I did this layer. Yes, that's one plugin by Eventide, and let me show you the update they did on the model H3000 MK2. First released around 1987, if I'm not mistaken. They had already done the harmonizer, the flanger, the phaser. They already had the SP 2016 reverb. It's really important for you to know Eventide's history because without them, there would be no FX history as we know it by now. Let's get into it. I could just start praising them, but let's get into it. Okay, so I just have this really single harmony beth for this single note. Okay, let's go into the first module of H3000. I have so many. Let's get here. Okay, so for this, I'm only using the pitch shifting module. It includes the version of the harmonizer, and you can do this pitching of the harmonizer. So you can select the left input, go into the pitch shifting module, and then outside the left output. So yes, you can route and cable anything in between here. One of the things that I like is that you can actually just shift, this delay time. And the pitch shifting module includes a delay, even though you have just a delay module that always has a high cut or a low pass. This one doesn't have a filter built in, so you can go from the pitch shift into a filter model that those are right here. And from here, you can select a band pass, a high pass, and you have various options. I am just doing a small micro pitch shift because I'm shifting by 9 cents. Remember, please, that this shift amount is given in cents. So you can go all the way up to 1 octave by going into shift modulation 1200. And these are cents. And remember that there are 100 cents in one semitone. So 1200 is 1 octave, right? So I'm only shifting 9 the left side, and I'm only shifting -9 the right side. This is a really old school trick to try and make things a bit wider. This is something that we are still using today. It's kind of chorusing a little bit the signal. As you can see, it has a really small delay time and no delay time, but I could also bring this a little bit back. If you hold Command on Mac or Control on PC, you can get off the grid and make it wherever you want it to go. Important things of the pitch shift module is that if you're doing the shift pitch mode, this is going to expect a minimum note as an input and a maximum note as an output. So if my incoming note is a D2 and I'm shifting it a whole octave up, I could set up my high note as much as C4, and this is more than enough because I will be outputting at D3, right? So let's keep it simple and let's start building all of the things that you can do. First, I'm just using the harmonizer to build this thing more stereo spread by just using a little bit of detuning on the edges. Without it, this main sound is only in the middle. With it, I felt like we needed this extra reference. I just added a kick drum in the center. That's just the first step. There's nothing to it. You can sync it to the session. You can sync the delay. Let's go into the second version. So one of the things that now we can really take advantage of is that it can receive MIDI information. And for example, I can use MIDI to modulate instead of automating only my plugin. So for this to happen, you have to do some proper routing inside your DAW. In Ableton Live, please check how it's done in your own DAW. But at least in Ableton Live, what you would have to do is to add a MIDI track without any instrument inserted, because that would output MIDI, and then your track will be able to see the other track that contains the H3000. In my case, since I have a lot of H3000s in the same track, I am seeing a lot of H3000s in the same track. So if you have more than one, be sure to check which one you're getting to. Otherwise, this won't work. Inside of the MIDI clip, you will go into the envelopes, you will go into the MIDI control changes, and I will be using the 16 control change as a general purpose, and I will be using this triangle form just as a way of showing how this movement is going to be reflected. If I go into the function page, I will see all of my modulation matrix. So I will see that my cutoff frequency is going to go from 300 to 5K, and on my filter 2 is going from, I'm using control change 17 from 1K down to 200. So I'm going to do some opposite movement of the EQs, as you can see. I'm using both band passes with a high resonance, so it's easy to listen to. And let's hear it in context, let's listen to it solo, and let's keep on developing our listening skills. So you will... You know the H3000 is, the plugin is receiving the MIDI information because it's not only locked out, it's moving. So let me show you just the effects. So sometimes it spreads out because it's not the exactly same information. And remember that it's a little bit detuned first. So first I'm detuning a little bit, then I'm shifting then I'm filtering both sides, and they are crossing each other at certain point. And that's when you will listen everything go closer to the middle, but it's not full mono. Okay, you can even listen when it's really like grinding against each other. If I exaggerate a little bit more the shift amount, I'm going to take it up an octave and up another octave, left and right. And now it's more than obvious, right? In context again. Okay, that's nice. Let's bring it up a notch. Let's take it up a notch. Okay, so here the plugin can also take sidechain input. Remember that on Ableton Live, for you to be able to route it, you have to either assign it from here or you can send it usually from here. But for the plugin to actually listen to it, it has to be selected down here. So this sounds different because now I have a stranger routing, right? So I'm going from the left and the right into their own pitch shifting modules. From there, I'm heading into the filters where I have a high pass and a low pass. But look that I have something connected to the modulation input of the pitch shifting and the filter. For this, I will only play one kick drum, one silence, one kick drum, one silence, because what will happen is that on the second and the fourth quarter notes, we will listen to the input of the sidechain, modify or modulate something. For that, I'm using another track that's only sending a clavi sound, right? Just a clavi sound, really short. Remember that if you want for this to behave in a certain time way, you need to really pick the sample that you're using as a sidechain input. If you need something longer, you might want to use another sound and experiment a lot with this, or increase the decay, or figure out a way to make it a lot more interesting. So it's actually working also as some sort of VCA control that's inputting into the sidechain and then modifying something. Even though you have some envelopes built in and some amp envelopes, I feel sometimes it might be faster to choose or build and sculpt the proper sound, right? If I only listen to the left channel against the kick drum, as I said, you will listen on times 2 and 4. And on the right side, I'm emphasizing a little bit the cue of the filter. So actually listen to the boom, cook, boom, cook. Okay, so when I use both at the same time, it gives this extra rhythm to it. Okay, that's getting interesting, right? That's getting funkier. Now, I'm going to use another version where I will be playing not only with the delay time of both, I could start adding, for example, some noise to the pitch shifting. Remember, this is just a noise generator. And whenever you want to apply something to the modifier, what you have to do is always remember to apply the modifier positive or negative, right? So I'm going to positively bring it all the way up an octave. And one fun thing is that you can take, in certain circumstances, please check it cable by cable. One single cable, for example, you can duplicate the outputs. In the case of the noise, I can apply it to both, and I can bring one down. Or, for example, I can shift a little bit the tuning by maybe 9 cents both ways. So let me bring this up to -3, down 2, and up 3. And that's more or less doing the same thing as if I had just an LFO shifting the pitch, right? Because I could add it from the modulator section or the function. But let's bring it up a notch. Like, we can always make it more complex. I'm going to first pitch shift it, then I'm going to feed also the right channel into the mixer 1. You have a small balance up here, so I'm going to have them at full level, 100%. From there, my left channel is going to be already shifted by a whole octave, right? My right channel is not shifted at all, and I'm going to give this delay time 0 because I want it to be like some sort of shimmer available. And from the output, I can take 1 and 2, left up an octave, right, no modifying at all, into filter 1. And for me, it's really important to have a visual order, or otherwise you will get DC so fast because you can do a lot of routing. And this is going to be my left output. And for my right output, what I will do is I will first delay the signal for this much. From there, I'm going to pitch shift it, and it's going to be noise modified by 12 cents, starting from 0. Wait, I'm going to change one really small thing before I keep on going. I'm going to use one of the filters that I have here, filter 2, and I'm going to change this. I'm going to first filter it and then go here. I'm going to go from the right channel into the filter 2 that's not being used. I will set that up as a high pass. I'm going to bring it a little bit lower, like 200 hertz, and from there feed it into the mixer. So it has a certain thing to it. And again, the right channel, I'm also fitting it into a delay first that's going out into a pitch shifter that's not having shifting at all, but it's being modulated by noise by 12 cents. From there, since I already moved it in time because it's already delay, I'm going to just bring that into the right output. And one small other thing is that I will use the function generator to modulate a little bit of the filter too. And again, remember to apply your modulation amount. Let's not make it way too big, something like this. And now it sounds like this. That's even getting us closer to some sort of Doppler effect, right? We can keep on getting a lot crazier. Let me show you just with the original sound with these effects. Against the bass. And with the kick drum. And let's add some sidechain modulation to the filters themselves, right? Let's add like 350 and maybe this to the delay. Frequency modulation would be like the same thing as the filter, so let's modify the delay time itself. Modulation amount, something like so. Nothing too strong, 30 milliseconds. Not only that, there's a really fun feature built in the delay module, that's the loop, and you can probably automate this one. It's probably a better idea. You can also modulate it from inside the plugin, but I think it's something that could be interesting to just turn it on in certain places, but I'm IDM inclined. It's just freezing the repetition. So you might want to turn it on for certain moments and then filter and do some complex movement around it, right? What will happen if I use all of the modules one after the other? And here in Ableton Live, I'm only using macros, so I could add the dry mix of every single plugin, and I can decide how they are funneling one into each other, so I have this interesting texture. Let me show you how this sounds. Woo! That's getting funny. Okay, let's go into almost the last example where I will show you not only how the H3000 works, but how essentially understanding event-type products lets you understand how modular FX building really is. So I have complex version of, because I did some funny patching, and you can see it on screen. I will say it once, the left channel is going into a pitch shifting first. From there, it's going into the delay 2 and into a mixer. And that mixer is also receiving the pitch shifting from the right channel, and that's summing up into a delay. And from the delay, I'm filtering. From the filter, I'm going into an envelope manager that's reacting to the sidechain. And from there, I'm going into some amp modulation because you could build a compressor with this. And from there, I'm going into the left channel. On the right side, I'm going first into the pitch shifting, then I'm going to two different mixers. One, I already spoke about it, and the second one is going into one filter, and then it's going into a second delay, and the right channel is going first into a pitch shifter that's feeding the first mixer that I already spoke about, and then a second mixer that's going into a filter that's being modulated by LFO1, and the right channel is going straight into the pitch shifter, the second one, and that's going into the first mixer that I already spoke about, and into another mixer, just pitch shifted, and that goes out the right side. But that second mixer is also receiving a delayed version of the first left channel pitch shift that's being sent to also a filter that's being modulated by an LFO, and that's feeding the second channel of the second mixer, and that's going through the right side. That's a lot of routing. So let me unplug the right side and let me show you only the left side. Let me show you only the right side. Okay, so together they give me this pattern, this rhythm. Against the basic sound. If that's not interesting enough, one other thing that you can start looking into is the expert page, where you have pretty much all of the available things that you might want to configure. I'm not really sure if you have them all. I spent a lot of time learning the plugin, so I'm almost sure that almost everything should be here. So I could also spend a lot of time talking about the threshold regarding the LFOs or the envelopes, because this is what works as a detection circuit that you can then connect to the amp modulation. And that's why we have a ratio, because now you can turn that into a compressor or like just leave it one by one and use this as a way of swelling things. And the scales are just multipliers, as any modular synthesis works. They are just multipliers, it's nothing more to it. You have your mixers right here. You have 4 mixers available, that's crazy. And remember that you have 2 ways to pitch shift stuff. You can use the pitch mode, shift, actual shift, and what that will do is it will detect the source that's coming in, and you can select in the source type if it's listening to something fully mono in this case, or something polyphonic, so it uses the best algorithm available for it. Or you can use the detune version of it, where you can start really chopping up the sound, and with that you can get some glitchy sound close to the granular world that I really love. Let me show you just the effects. You can really mess around with this, and remember that the crossfade length is the length that it will take for the repetition to crossfade into the actual sound and the actual repetition. So use this to soften up the glitch and use it shorter to create some small hits like that, right? I'm using shift on both because it's for this sound it just works, but then again, explore, have fun with it. And not only that, this is just one part of it. And you can listen that the left side is having this low end support because the delay time is at 0 and I'm bringing it down 1 octave. If I turn off the EQ that's filtering the low end with original signal, okay, so I am getting a lot of texture from it, right? But I'm also using in the same chain the H3000 band delays, because this lets me do a lot of extra work with the delays and the repetitions. So more or less the idea of the presentation of the plugin is pretty much the same, with the only exception that on program you have your 8 repetitions available where you can displace them per bars. Remember that you can sync them up and you can adjust the meter that you're using. So if you're using 3/4 or 7/8 or whatever, it's actually going to show it and make it easier for you. Most of the times after I set up the delay time, I jump to the expert page because this is where I can really configure most of the things. For example, the filtering, the delay time, I won't touch it, but I have a mixer here with sense left and right, and this is just glory. And I can invert the polarity, will be the proper word, of the repetitions themselves. So I'm going to turn this one on. And as you can already see, there are a lot of things grayed out that are moving, and there's something really important for you to understand that I think is really useful, especially in the box context where we have all of the MIDI available, is that maybe I have this single note that's part of the lead line of whatever, but I can fit chords into the plugin. So I have this extra MIDI track that's called Chords for H3000, and this is sending this specific chord progression, and it's going to be arpeggiated in quarter notes. I'll switch it from quarter notes to 8 notes to 16 notes so you can listen to what happens. But this interacts with the expert page with a MIDI note mode, and it's doing the circular mode. You have several available. Remember to always check the user guide so you know which one is doing what. You can read it, screenshot it, or download it as well. Or you can just hit the I and it's going to bring you right into the user manual. What this will do is with the circular, it's going to keep on shifting notes from each of the delays, and you will see right here how each repetition is going to be tuned. But if I change this mode into ordered, for example, you will see that only one of them is changing. That is because the routing is really important. I told you this was going to be a really dense video. The routing is really important. So on the ordered mode, it will play one filter at a time, so they will be taking the notes. So since I'm doing an arpeggiator that it's one single note at a time, it's going to be changing only this first one. If I extend the gate of the MIDI note, so if the MIDI note lasts longer, but if my MIDI notes are really short, it's only hitting the first band because I'm using this mode. If I hit the gated one, this is really fun because it's going to play with the on and off of the bands. But again, the gate is really important, so I'm going to make it longer. And I'm going to increase the rate now, so 8 notes. 16th notes. And remember to play around not only with that, but with the actual whole chain of your DAW. Your DAW is your studio. So I'm going to make this arpeggiator create only one repetition of the arpeggiation by hitting one repetition to go one octave with a shorter gate. So it's going to hit a circular way of changing the note of every single one of those, but it's only going to do it once in a 16th note repetition. If I don't bring it up a whole octave, it's only going to last for the first. So have fun with it. Okay, I could keep on going just playing with sound design and having some interesting delays at hand. So my best suggestion for this case scenario is to go look at the H3000 and all of the Eventide plugins, especially those old school modules that just look old because they might actually teach you something. And that's scary. This is how you can go from I'm just going to hit play until the end of this evolving pattern. I'm going to bring in actual drums that will take us to another place. Enjoy. H3000 got an MK2 version. We could go on and on with event type plugins. This is one I've used a lot. It also has 8 delays with pitch shifting that can follow scale with MIDI control, that can also do gating, and it's crazy. Like, probably one of the best ways to actually find your sound is to actually explore modularly what things we have at hand. If you like this kind of videos, be sure to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because I'm putting videos every single week. Not all of them are this dense, but I promise you, I want you to learn, I want you to explore, and to get as creative as you can. Straight from Mexico City, my name is Juanchis, and thanks for listening.